This is the last video of a 3-part series that I've been working on about anxiety. In this video, I talk more about the strategies and tricks I use every day that help me manage and fight my anxiety. Please keep in mind that I am not trained in this field. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist. I am only sharing my personal experience and what works for me. I really hope that it is helpful to you. Alright, here's one that you can take into every single day with you. And this is a very strange one, and you're lucky that I feel in kind of a weird, goofy mood right now because I might want to demonstrate this one. This is something that you can use day to day in all of your social interactions. For those of you who feel so much awkwardness, so much pressure and tension when you're around other people or in any kind of social situation or after a phone call. This is what I do. This works for me. I bet it would work for you too. Basically, after you hang up the phone after an awkward conversation, or after you walk away from someone, or after you walk out of an interview and you are feeling that tension, that stress all built up inside of you, that awkwardness that makes you want to hide, just let it out with breathing, with noises, and literally physically shake off the tension. Make sure nobody is looking at you when you're doing this. That's a very important step. Make sure that nobody is looking or can hear you. I don't know if I can demonstrate this because in person I am an extremely awkward, socially anxious person, and to demonstrate this would just, I can't imagine doing this in front of people, but I'll demonstrate, and then if it's really awful and embarrassing, I will edit it out. Okay, basically it's like shivers. I promise you that is one of the most helpful things that I have ever learned with anxiety, is to just release the anxiety, physically release it from your body, because I think it's a physical tension. Meditation and yoga, they focus on this as well, to relax your body and release this kind of tension, but that's just my way of doing it. Another thing that I have learned to do, it helps me a lot to think of myself as two different entities. And bear with me, that might sound a little weird. I separate myself from my brain or my body. You can interchange the word brain or body, however it makes more sense to you, but for me, I always just said brain. So for example, it's very useful to reason with your brain or reason with yourself. It's just easier for me to separate myself into two separate things because for me, anxiety really is like a battle within yourself, because obviously you don't want to be fearful of something, you don't want to be anxious about something, you don't want to be awkward, so you're always constantly in an inner fight with yourself. Yeah, I like to reason with myself in my head. Try not to accept your fears as your fears, because that's going to make you feel so limited and so weighed down. Try to tell yourself that your fears are these irrational fears that your brain has made up, because your brain is constantly in a fight or flight mode, and it's always looking for something wrong. It's always looking for something dangerous that could hurt you or kill you, and that's totally normal because it's your survival mechanism. But we don't need that mechanism all the time. For example, if I'm nervous to order at a restaurant, some situation that holds zero danger or threat whatsoever, but my brain is going crazy, my brain's freaking out and super scared and nervous, I want to reason with my brain and say, this is an irrational fear, you're fine, your brain is making this up because of this. Which actually reminds me of another thing that I do. Something that you can do for anxiety that has helped me a lot is to turn really stressful things into a game. And I don't really have too many examples for this, but it helps so much to just kind of decide that these things don't matter as much and to make a joke out of it. Like my little sister once went into an O'Reilly Auto Parts store and sang their theme song to the workers, and then we just walked out. That was really fun, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with this whole like make it into a game. Make your fears into a game. Like even go as far as like if you're scared of something, record yourself doing it. That gives you that kind of motivation and that kind of game feel to it, that like, oh, I'm just doing this for the video. That's what I've done actually for, I used to do like a facing fear challenge every day. Another thing that I do sometimes, and this one is a much more rare thing, but if this is useful to you guys, use it. I sometimes kind of I try to zone myself out of reality. Like if I'm in an extremely stressful situation, and for me, for some reason, job interviews are very stressful, try to kind of zone yourself out of reality. Try to like withdraw, pretend that you're in a dream. And I know that sounds weird, but for me it works. That if I'm in a really stressful situation, I sometimes just pretend that it's not real and that I'm in a dream. And it makes a lot of things a lot easier. This is one that I don't do a lot, but it works for me, it helps me. You kind of feel this freedom to just let anything out. There was even a job interview I had once where I had to do some acting in the interview. It wasn't an acting job, but it had to do with acting, kind of. And he wanted me to read an excerpt in a theatrical way in the interview. I cannot tell you how petrified I was. I was so scared and so nervous to read that sheet of paper in a theatrical voice, acting in an interview in this closed room. I literally was about to get up and walk away. I considered bolting. Like, the fight or flight response. I had that response and I was about to just get out of there. But I kind of just pretended that I was in a dream at that time. It works. That's what I do. The last thing I want to touch on is to always remind yourself of the truth. And the truth is, as far as social anxiety goes, as far as the fear of judgment, try to first realize and remind yourself that people are not thinking about you. Strangers on the street are not thinking about you. Yeah, sure, they may glance in your direction, but then they go on with their day and their life and their thoughts and their problems, because everyone is thinking about themselves. Everyone is thinking about their problems. You will not be a thought in their head tomorrow. They won't think about you later in the day. And this is also something that may sound depressing, but it's a very good thing. It's a very freeing thing to know that no matter how badly you mess up, no matter what you do on a day-to-day basis, people don't care that much. And they have their own problems and their own pain and their own fears, and they're just not going to be thinking about you, which is great. It's a good thing. Like for me, I have like this really great fear of being looked at. Any look longer than 2 seconds is extremely uncomfortable. And like obviously the more people looking, the worse it is. I do have this extreme fear of like falling in front of somebody, or tripping in front of somebody, or messing up in front of people, which I've done many times. And it's a very useful thing to remember that people don't care. People don't care. And at the same time, people are extremely understanding and extremely kind about those things. Like, I know I just said they're not going to care, but I mean, they're not going to be making fun of you or judging you in their head. They're going to be understanding. I think that I'm in the minority, but I actually believe in the goodness in people. I believe in the goodness in humanity, and I really think that most people, most of the time, are giving you the benefit of the doubt. Most people are not looking at you and judging. I'll finish this video by saying that I, again, am so extremely grateful for all of your support, really. I try to read every single comment, and I try to respond to the questions. And I literally am shocked at the kind of response that I got all at once. Literally, this has all happened in 1 month. I've gone from, I think, about 100 subscribers to, I think it's now 43,000 subscribers.
I recorded this video a couple months ago,
I have
and now
like
I
this
think I'm at
massive
89,000.
support system.
Yay.
All right, goodbye.